My name is Claire Spalding, and Felice was my great aunt. Her brother Rudy was my grandfather. So Lisa asked me to help frame today's gathering and just facilitate the conversation, which I am here to do. And I want to start by just thanking you all for coming to celebrate Felice's life with us. It's incredible to see how many lives Felice touched and how much she was loved in so many different communities that she was a part of. And as we start today, I know that we are all sending love to everyone on this call, but especially we're all sending extra love to Felice's daughters, Lisa, Jenna, and Eva, her grandchildren, Jesse, David, Matt, and Dan, and the rest of the family, as well as everyone else who was close to Felice and is missing her. I knew Felice as our family matriarch, and most of my memories of her take place at holiday gatherings when various sets of cousins would come together at her house to celebrate, to eat good food, to exchange gifts, and to talk and to laugh together. And I'm very sorry that we can't be in person together like that right now. But I am so grateful that at least we're able to see each other's faces and be in this virtual space to mark this moment and to send each other love and comfort. And the plan right now is that there is going to be an in-person memorial service for Felice in September, assuming that it's safe to hold one by then. So we hope to see people then. And today will be more of just an informal kind of Shiva gathering, a chance to come together to share some stories and just to be with each other. So I am going to start by sharing a few readings that Lisa picked out from the Reconstructionist Siddur. And then we're going to spend most of the next hour sharing memories and stories about Felice. And at about 4:45, we'll wrap up the sharing so that we can recite the Mourner's Kaddish together. As Jeannie said, also, please keep yourselves muted throughout. I'll let you know when it's possible for people to unmute themselves. This is being recorded and live streamed. And yeah, please feel free, however, to introduce yourself in the chat, to share anything that is on your mind in the chat as we go along. All right. So the first reading today is a poem called For a Parent by Linda Paston. Move to the front of the line, a voice says, and suddenly there is nobody left standing between you and the world to take the first blows on their shoulders. This is the place in books where part 1 ends and part 2 begins, and there is no part 3. The slate is wiped not clean, but like a canvas painted over in white, so that a whole new landscape must be started, bits of the old still showing underneath those colors sadness lends to a certain hour of evening. Now the line of light at the horizon is the hinge between earth and heaven, only visible a few moments as the sun drops its rusted padlock into place. The second reading is A Litany of Remembrance by Rabbis Jack Reamer and Sylvan Kamens. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. So since we have limited time today and there are so many of us, again, I ask that everyone please stay muted, but if you have a story about Felice or a memory or a reflection that you'd like to share, please say so in the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom if you know how to do that. And I'll call on people one at a time. And if I call on you, you can then unmute yourself and talk for 2 to 3 minutes. Share a reflection, a story, anything that you want to share. And please, when you do so, please start by introducing yourself and telling us how you knew Felice, because there are people here from all different parts of her life, and I know we don't all know each other. And again, you're also welcome, especially if we don't have time for everyone to share out loud, to share reflections and messages of love in the chat, which we will be saving. So with that, is there anyone who would like to start us off with a story or a memory? Tammy? Oh, I think you need to unmute yourself. Tammy, you're muted. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, thank you very much. Felice and I met when we were in our early 20s, and so I've known her 70 years, and we were like sisters in many ways. We always felt so comfortable with each other, and we loved each other very much, and our families as well. I wrote a poem for her when she had her 70th birthday, and I recently updated it, and I would like to read it because it says what I feel in my heart for her. We met as singles years ago before we wed our gent, and what I loved about her then, in time became intense. Her joy of life, ebullience, kept us all afloat, and when good things came her way, she'd never ever gloat. Her musicality was known as teacher and performer. As grandmother, mother, wife, and friend, she couldn't be much warmer. A raconteur of stories told, we found her such a treat. She'd jump right in with such elan and rarely miss a beat. Though intent on a career, she never did lose sight of those who needed her support to help them through the night. I'm so glad that we met. I'll miss you, dear Felice. All my thoughts of you, my friend, will never ever cease. Thank you very much.
Tammy, thank you. That was beautiful. Jill Moskowitz, do you want to unmute yourself?
I'm just one of those people that hate silences, so I'm jumping in. I met Felice in 1976. It's kind of hard to even imagine that. So it was like 45 years ago when I was a new staff member at the Jewish Community Center of Greater Washington. And there were 4 of us who were a gang of 4. So there was Felice, Elaine Mann, Arna, who I know is also on the call, and myself. And we became not only wonderful colleagues, but really close friends and a community to share joys and sorrows, and also lots of frustration and lots of discussion about women and how we could break through that glass ceiling. So it was a wonderful relationship, and I know it's a place that Felice spent many, many years crafting her skills and creating just an incredible focal point for music at the JCC. I will also say that I'm a singer-songwriter, so we had a very special connection on the music front. And I've really been thinking about this a lot, even before I heard about Felice's passing, that I used to do Shabbat Sing with the little kids in the atrium of the JCC, for those of you who remember that space. And Felice would always tease me and say, do you think you're going to do that when you're 50 years old? Right? I'm well past that age. And now I understand what she was saying. While I still love it, I just don't have that same connection and energy that I had those years. But it's morphed into other things. So we had a very special relationship also musically, where it was somebody I could talk to about a music career and what are the frustrations and the ups and downs. And of course, we knew each other's families and so on. So we loved her and we'll miss her terribly. Yeh zichra baruch.
Thank you, Jill. Jonathan, go ahead.
Thanks so much. My name is Jonathan Schulman, and I am one of Felice's children. And by that, I mean I'm one of her stay children. I was in the summer theater, the Arts for Youth, for 4 spectacular, amazing, foundational, creational, extraordinary summers of my life, and all of the programs within that. And Felice, of course, was a force of nature. She was our teacher. You did not stand in the way of Felice, but she was so kind. She was so wonderful. And I know I remember very fondly growing up and going to stay plays and thinking, this is something that I'm going to be a part of one day. And then having those years, defining years in high school, in junior high and high school, when I participated in all of that. And after I left it, stay continues to be such one of the most extraordinary experiences of my youth. There were so many things I learned in that process, so many wonderful mistakes that I made. And it certainly probably has a lot to do with the fact that I've gone on to become a teacher. And Felice was the creator behind that. Felice was the force. And I'm but one voice here. I see my old friend Mike Scheinberg's on here, and our choreographer for Nancy Scales Harry is on here as well. I'm sure they have many stories that they could tell as well. But take my story here and just multiply it by thousands. And that's the number of us who under Felice's tutelage experienced that just wonderful, wonderful youthful experience that I would never trade for anything ever, and has been profound in defining who I am. So I will miss Felice, but she is very much with me.
Thank you, Jonathan. For those who are just joining, we're just sharing stories and memories and tributes to Felice. If you want to say something, please either use the raise hand feature or just let me know in the chat, since there are so many of us here. And Walter, you want to unmute?
Yes, thank you very much. I also am a veteran of Stay, although I suspect earlier than Jonathan by the by the looks of it. But our relationship with Felice and the Kornbergs goes back to when we all lived in Shepherd Park, Washington, D.C. in the 60s. And my sister and Eva made friends, and our families became friends. And then even when the Kornbergs moved to Garrett Park, our family stayed connected, and we even used to go over to their house on weekends when our parents didn't want to deal with us, which was nice. But I feel like Felice was all the things that everybody's already said, like a very strong figure, but at the same time, a very warm figure. Sometimes the word tough love comes to mind. And so, you know, coincidentally, I was involved in the JCC Stay program when she was the musical director also in the 70s. And I was auditioning for Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. And I had just seen Man of La Mancha starring Richard Kiley. And so I had that in my head. And during my audition, I sang one of those songs, like I really overdid it. And, you know, it wasn't good. And afterwards, Felice pulled me aside. She goes, "Stop trying to sound like Richard Kiley. just sing the song and you'll be fine." And I got the part. So I thought that's a pretty typical Felice story. So I loved her, we loved her, and are sorry to see her go. She certainly was, like a previous speaker said, a force of nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Is that Alan and Arna? Are you in the end? Would you like to unmute?
Yes, we will.
Okay, go ahead.
We will miss Felice terribly. We were close with both Warren and Felice, and spent many evenings together. And when I think of them, I think of how Warren would carefully place us at a table for 4 with Felice and I separate so that we could talk JCC business. So he kept us at distance, but I know Felice from the same time Jill does, and from the Stay people that have talked. I was the
Adam was
director.
in Stay.
Adam, our son was in Stay as well. But I was director of the camps, of which Stay was a part of the camps. And in those early years, Jill and Elaine and I went to New York, and the friendship was a friendship that lasted for 40 some years. And I will miss her terribly.
We went to theater with them.
And in the more recent time, before Warren died, we had tickets to theater with them. So we spent many evenings driving back and forth, having dinner, enjoying theater, and enjoying each other. But she was a rare woman of strength, of intellect, of kindness, and of love. And she will be in my heart forever.
Thank you so much, Arna. Alice?
Yeah, hi, my name is Alice Berman. My husband, Joel Berman, was conductor of the JCC Symphony when Felice was there. So in the early 70s, I'm not even sure when she came to the JCC, but she, as has been described, was a force of nature, a wonderful musician, a wonderful person. I worked with her more recently when I was part of the Johansson International Competition for Young String Players. She was on the committee that ran that competition and has always been incredibly smart and articulate and on top of things up until she left us, because she's just a remarkable woman and she will be sorely missed. That's it.
Thank you, Alice. Mike, go ahead.
Sure. Hopefully you all can hear me. I apologize for if there's any background sound. I'm at Nats Park right now, but I wanted to make sure that I got to this as well. My name is Mike Scheinberg. I was in Stay at the same time, actually, as Arna's son, Adam, as well as Jonathan, Stay was one of those situations which was able to, in the same way that Jonathan said it, I think I really love that you said this, you learned how to make mistakes and how to deal with them. That was only just even a part of it. We learned successes as well, but we also learned how to pick up the pieces. It was an experience for me, which was able to really help me get my voice and gain my voice and keep my voice for everything that I've done since then. When my son wanted to go through theater camp here in Northern Virginia, he was very interested in theater, and he went through a great program, which is the Levine Music Arts Camp. He eventually became a CIT. He really loved that a lot. I was looking for the same type of experiences that I had, and that Felice was able really to be able to give, the warmth there. It was something that didn't quite feel the same way, because Felice really had that touch that she really wanted to make sure that this was that great experience for absolutely everybody. But I think that being able to do that was, my son's going to be going to Emerson in the fall. He's still very much interested in producing, and it's something which I was able to learn a little bit more about because of the experiences that we had with Felice, because of the experiences we had with Stay. I also met somebody who was in Stay 10 years after me, and just the experiences that she was able to provide really have gone on for, I guess, generations. And she is absolutely going to be missed by myself and by everybody in multiple communities.
Thank you, Mike. Emma, go ahead.
So, hi everybody. I am Emma. I am married to Lisa Kornberg, Felice and Warren's oldest daughter. I have two stories that kind of fit together. So, for many years, I was a stage manager, and I loved being behind the curtain. And my first performance was in Superior Donuts as Lady. And Mom, Lisa was bringing Mom. Jenna was bringing Mom. Someone brought Mom. And she was late, So we held the beginning of the play. And when she got there, she had to go to the bathroom. So we held the beginning of the play. And Mom needed a chair with arms. So she sat in the center of the audience in the Queen's chair. And it was absolutely wonderful. Whenever I looked out, she was just beaming at me. And afterwards, she congratulated me, gave me a little critique, told me a few things I could do differently. And that leads into recently at Passover, Lisa and I, excuse me, went to the house and had a Seder, just the three of us. And we read from the book that Warren and Felice have had for more years than Emma's been around. And Lisa has a small video of Mom reading, and this is an example. And Pharaoh went after them with the chariots and flying down the hill. It was so dramatic and it was so fun. And at the very end of it, she said, "This is really fun." That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Wish I could have seen that. Yeah, the video. Yeah. Jenna, you want to go?
I am Jenna, Felice's middle daughter, and I just wanted to thank everybody for being here and for doing this. It means a lot to my sisters and my children and my nieces and nephews. So thank you.
Sheila?
So just briefly, I've known Felice, or at least when I think of the period of time that I've known Felice, which is January 1989, when I first came to the JCC in Rockville. And from then until I just spoke with Felice a couple of weeks ago, we were setting up a lunch with Sarah and Selma, who I know are on this as well. Unfortunately, that lunch was not to be. It would have been just this past Thursday. But I don't know where the time went. Felice and I worked together. I was the director of cultural arts. She was the director of music. But she was much more than a colleague. She was a friend. She was someone you could bounce ideas off of. Many people on this have said, she was a force of nature, and indeed she was, and you didn't want to go against what Felice said, but she was also someone who listened. And if you had a contrary opinion, she would at least listen to it. And sometimes you might even be able to change her mind. But she, as I say, she was an amazing friend, an amazing colleague. Even after I left the JCC in 2000, we continued to have lunch on our own, as well as with Sarah, Selma, Marta, Yvette, all of whom I know are on this Zoom. And I think every one of them would agree that she was just, she was a friend to all. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Sheila. Uncle Vic?
Hi, I'm Vic Scher. My father, Rudy, was Felice's older brother. And my mother was also a pianist, and Felice introduced them. And I've known Felice since 1954. And she's always been a part of my life. And I thought she was going to live forever. And I'll miss her very much.
Thank you. Marta, you want to share?
Yeah, Felice and I got together over music since she came to the JCC. I would say take some refresher piano lessons on the grand piano on the stage. That was the only time I got to a grand piano on a stage in my life. But she arranged it, and we would have the lessons there. We would play piano for hymns in our house and enjoyed it. I was the one organizing the tickets for the concerts at the Kennedy Center in Strathmore. And unfortunately, the last few years, Felice couldn't almost make it to the Strathmore. So thanks to Lisa and to Jenna, she managed to enjoy a couple of seasons of concerts, although it was really an uphill adventure, especially for Lisa, to bring Felice to Strathmore and from Baltimore. So I really appreciate it. And, we continued, we were friends sharing about families, about backgrounds. I know all about her dad, and I read his bio, and he was an Yiddishist, so was my father-in-law. So we had a lot of things in common, and we talked a lot about families. And I am so heartbroken. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Marta. Roger, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm Roger Scher, and Felice was my aunt. My dad, David, was her younger brother, and so I'm not as impressive as Vic. I've only known her since 1965. But she was the word that I used to describe to my future wife at the time, Laura, was fierce. And Laura kind of smiled and was, well, I'll get along with her fine. Felice was just so wonderful. When we were kids, as adults, she always was able to just talk to you as you were and where you were coming from. And it was always just so wonderful to be able to talk to her. I called her just a couple weeks ago, or actually less than that, and didn't get her. We usually played about 3 or 4 rounds of phone tag before we actually managed to get each other. And she, finally picked up on my second try back, and she's like, Roger, is everything okay? I'm like, yes, everything's fine. I just wanted to say hi. She's like, I'm just checking. I was like, okay, everything's fine. And that was just Felice. She was just fabulous, and I miss her. We'll miss her terribly. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. I want to make sure that we have time for the family members who want to speak, to share something. So I'm going to ask Melanie to share next.
So I actually must have met Felice in 1947 when I was born. I don't have any conscious memories of her quite in those early years, but by 1952, 1953, 1954, I had some very vivid memories. I loved the fact that amongst my father's brothers and cousins, she was the only woman. She was the only girl. And I was an only child, and loved the fact that there was at least one other woman, in the family. I thought her name was magical, and her blonde hair was beautiful. And what I particularly loved was that she was strong enough to stand up to my mother, who was another very strong member of the family. And I vividly remember the kinds of conversations around the table when we would get together with Felice and Rudy and David and my parents. And they were such vibrant, intellectual, ethical, moral conversations. And I learned from that family can be such an exciting and stimulating experience, not only in just the love that we had for each other, but also in the way that we explored ideas. And I will miss her greatly.
Beautiful, Melanie. Thank you. Looks like Mike has maybe been disconnected. Mike, if
I
you're...
think I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Wonderful. Go
I'm
ahead.
back. Hi, I'm Mike Scher. I'm Roger's brother. My dad, David, was Felice's younger brother. And, I have so many memories and thoughts about Felice. She was, she loomed so large. And I used to love at the family gatherings with her. She was, there was so much life and animation and just love and thirst for knowledge. And it was fascinating, even as a young kid watching Felice, because she was, unabashedly opinionated, as most of our family is and was. And but it was funny because she was much more subtle than the rest of the family. And while there was, big debates going on, she would easily hold her own, but she would kind of do this dance and maneuver herself around, and she could be very, self-deprecating and sort of laugh it off at times, or she could make her point without sort of bludgeoning you with it. And it was always great to be around her. She had a great sense of humor, and there was always so much love. And when I got to live in DC for a year in 1997, it was so great to be able to see her in Warren and Jenna and even Lisa and Emma and everyone, Michael, and it was really a treat to be able to spend some time with her as an adult, for more than just a casual visit.
Mike, you're breaking up. I don't think we can hear you anymore. I'm going to mute you, but if your connection gets restored, we can circle back, okay? All right, I'm not sure if that's working. All right. I think we've lost Mike. Hopefully he will come back. Let's go to Matt and then back to Mitch.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt. I'm Felice's grandson, Lisa's son. I'm a little less prepared than when I normally speak on Zoom calls. So it's going to be kind of a hodgepodge of reflections and anecdotes and memories. Quickly, I have a 2-year-old who daily shows me how poorly a job I've done baby-proofing this house, and finds things that I thought I had hidden. And this morning, I don't know where he found it, but he ran up and handed me the birthday card that my grandma got him 2 weeks ago. So it was pretty special for him to come up and hand that to me today. When I think about my grandparents, something that I was talking to my wife Katie about is how vivid and sensory so many of my memories are with them. My grandpa had such a booming, deep voice. I can just imagine him his skepticism on the fact that this is being broadcast on the internet right now, how he would feel about that. But it's funny, I work training teachers, and when teachers are new to the classroom, they command a room with that loud booming voice. And then once they find their groove, they command it with kind of a soft, powerful, confident voice. And then that's what my grandma had, much more than my grandpa. So it's interesting to think about how both of them could just command the room. But with grandpa, it would be a whistle and then everyone listening to him, and grandma would just talk quietly until everyone shut up and listened to her. But as I think about them, it's things like that. It's auditory memories. It's visual memories. I can see my grandma sitting at the piano. I can see my grandma shushing everyone away from trying to help with the dishwasher. I can smell the cooking as we're all together in her kitchen. And so their house, it really holds a special place in so many of my memories. They always really valued education. So I feel really special that I followed a career in education. They were always just so proud of all of my accomplishments. They brought Katie in as their own. They were proud of her accomplishments. I think my grandma is one of the only people who read all 100 pages of my master's thesis, and she read it like the day I sent it to her and sent me feedback. I think that they really, really loved their family, and they showed it in their own way, but there was never any doubt how much they loved all of us. So it was really, I just feel really lucky that we had her for as long as we did. I'm gonna miss her.
Thank you, Matt. Mitch, go ahead.
Sure, I'll just be really brief. If the time with what I remember from Felice is just a very happy time in my childhood. I know that John and I first got interested in Stay. We saw we were kids watching Fiddler on the Roof during the year before, and then we were very excited about getting into the next year and acting, and that was the great thing about Felice. She gave a lot of kids confidence at that age, important developing stage in our lives, and just there's a community, obviously, and we felt our Jewishness with her in our home, and being around other kids of that age, and having that real network that year after year you could go back and see the same friends. And so that's something that will always live in our lives. People who were a part of that Stay experience, for me, that was a very formative part of my life, and something I'll always carry with me.
Thank you, Mitch. We have just a few more minutes to share before we have to start to wrap this up. So I'm going to ask Rachel if you want to say something.
Yeah. Thanks, Claire. I'm glad I didn't have to directly follow Matt, since he just made me sob. I think I'm probably the newest, not youngest, but newest inductee into the family, as I married Jenna's son, David, and kind of became one of Felice's grandkids by that. And I just want to reiterate what Matt said, that she really did make you feel so special and so loved. And even coming into the family, she always made me feel important, and always made sure to pull me out single and have a conversation with me and remember things about me. And I joke and just said the other day that she is one of the only people that understood my job and what I do. And even people my own age don't understand it. Some of my coworkers don't understand it. And she went and found an article about it online and emailed it to me and was just like, hey, have you seen this? And I was so touched that she really, truly understood it, and just always made me feel like I was part of the family from the second David knew he loved me. And I'm just so grateful for this family. And I think she's a really big part of that.
Thank you, Rachel. Sending big, big hugs. Lisa, I want to let you kind of have the last word here. I see there are a few more people who also said that they wanted to share something. And if you all would be willing to share in the chat, that would be wonderful. I'm sorry that we don't have time. There is so much love here, and it's amazing that we can't even contain it all in a 45-minute Zoom call. But Lisa, why don't you go ahead?
So I'm Lisa. I am Felice's eldest daughter, and she was mommy. I don't know who you all are talking about. She was mommy. She's the mommy who put the chocolate filling pan on the floor and handed us the spoons and told us to lick it. She's the mommy that would call in every Friday, even when I had wanted nothing to do with her. She would call every Friday, even if she left a message, because she said to me, in case you ever wanted to call, I didn't want there to be too much distance. So she always made herself available. She's the mommy who, without batting an eyelash, accepted us when we came out and when we got together. She's the mommy that embraced and learned and loved all of her grandchildren and became, as Rachel just said, experts on what they were and what they wanted to be. She had more faith in all of us than I think many of us even have in ourselves. And I know that when I went to her retirement party at the JCC, I know at her 70th birthday party, I know at all of these other events, there's a whole world of hers that made her phenomenal. And I didn't need any of it. She was just mommy. And so we're all going to miss her very, very much. And Jenna and Eva, there's nobody in front of us anymore. So we got to figure this out. And I think we will. And I think we have a lot of support as we see here tonight, today, this afternoon, whatever it is. So thank you all for your love. Thank you all for your stories. I have one little piece of logistical information. Eventually we're going to get it together and there'll be an obituary, and eventually we'll get it together and there'll be a bio, and eventually we'll get it together and there'll be an in-person real recognition of how formidable of a force she was. But my sisters and I have made a decision that if people do want to honor her, we're setting it up. The donations can be sent to the Artists of Excellence concert series at the JCC, which she supported young artists her whole life. She gave as much to them sometimes as she did to us. She was so invested. And I will, hopefully it won't be offensive to anybody, send that information out in the emails that I sent to you all about today. We love you. We thank you for being here today. We thank you for loving Mom, and we'll all miss her very much.
Thank you, Lisa. I love you. I'm sending a big hug. Hope to hug you in person soon. With that, thank you all so much for sharing all of these memories and stories. We are going to join together and recite the Mourner's Kaddish, which I will share on the screen so that you have the words in front of you. And if it is your custom, I invite you to rise for this. Yit Gadal Vit Gadash Me Rabba Elma Divra Churute Viamlich Malchute V'chayechon Uvyomechon Uvchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Va'agala Uvizman Kariv Imru Amen.
Amen.
Yit Barach Vish Tabach Vit Pa'ar Vit Ramam Vit Naseh Vit Hadar Vit Ale Vit Halal Shmei de Kudesha Le'ela Mikol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Da Amiran Be'alma V'Imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Amin Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'Imru Amen. Thank you all so much for coming. I think we are wrapping up and the Zoom room is going to close in just a few minutes. But if people want to unmute themselves and just say a quick goodbye now as we all head out, this is the time. And thank you for everything that you all shared.